Every minute, one American is arrested for marijuana possession. That is 60 seconds and one person, and it adds up to an estimated 600,000 arrests per year for marijuana possession, according to procon.org. So I hope that this illustrates that there is a need for change in the United States regarding the current marijuana policy. The current policy is limiting to the success of the United States, and it can be easily changed for everyone's best interest. The problem at hand is that state governments have legalized most state governments have legalized the use of marijuana recreationally. However, the United States federal government has not. So currently the marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic on the federal level, which makes it illegal to possess and use. That is why there is some need for change, because it is legal under certain legislations, but not legal overall in the United States. So actually over half of Americans support the recreational marijuana use to be legalized. In 1969, only 12% of Americans actually supported it, but it has since grown to today, what is 64%. So it's a pretty good majority of Americans believe that marijuana should be legalized. So this creates a really impossible situation for the United States. Under state government regulations, many states, many citizens are allowed to use marijuana, but not on the federal level. So how can this be changed? It needs to be adopted by Congress that the marijuana is taken off of the narcotic scheduling and then would no longer be illegal for use and possession. So the people are talking. It's obviously an overwhelming majority of Americans that support this, and the government needs to listen. This is a simple task by just removing marijuana from the narcotic scheduling. An expert, Dale Sky Jones, an expert in cannabis reform, says that it's now up to Congress to uphold the will of the American people or allow destruction of jobs and a successful industry in the United States because of one official's outdated prejudice and refusal to accept current research. So he's saying that refusing to change this on the federal level is going to really ruin that industry that has been created, and that the research now shows that it's going to be okay for people to use and it would be helpful, but Congress is just stagnating on it and refusing to change anything. So like I said, it's a very simple change for very big benefits. Changing the policies would reduce conflict overall in the United States overwhelmingly. It would reduce the conflict between state and federal governments that is currently weakening our view to the American public and to other countries, because our two most powerful governments are not aligning and ideals are not the same overall. So reducing that conflict would help everyone involved, and it would also lessen the organized crime and conflict between organized crime and law enforcement. The American Civil Liberties Union stated that when Washington and Colorado legalized marijuana, it costed an estimated of $2.7 million for Mexican drug cartels. So that would obviously, legalizing marijuana would reduce how often it's sold illegally and would help to reduce some of that organized crime associated with marijuana sales. Also, there are racial tensions and racial conflict involved between law enforcement and people of color in the United States. It is currently allowing systematic racism and is extremely biased and is increasing the racial tensions in the United States when they're already very high. It's actually 3.7 times more likely for a person of color to be arrested for marijuana possession, although people of color and whites use marijuana at the same rates. It's almost 4 times more likely for someone of color to be arrested. So that's according to the New York Times, and at a time now when tensions are very high, it would be really beneficial to just relieve those tensions overall. So this, as you can tell, it's worth it when it comes to the decreasing conflicts in America, but is it worth it monetarily? Definitely. This would prevent issues as well as generate income. So because many states have already legalized the use of marijuana, it would be a really seamless transition and really cost effective for the United States government. The federal government would have to put in a really low investment and get really high return because it's already, the way has already been paved by many states. Representative Earl Blumenauer stated that 300,000 jobs are already estimated to increase in the job market because of the marijuana industry by 2020. And so also, not only would the jobs increase, the job market, but all of the profit and tax revenue from illegal marijuana sales would be able to go to our national debt, the public sector, public schools, and other social welfare situations for the United States. So it would just better, all the profit would go to bettering the economy and the United States. In Colorado alone, in 2016 and 2017, $145 million was put into the public schools and public programs, such as programs for the homeless and other programs of that nature. So that's $145 million just all from tax revenue. So imagine what the federal government could do, because that's just one state. So, and that's according to procon.org as well. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of benefits of changing the marijuana policy and very little disadvantages. So why should we continue to waste billions of dollars yearly incarcerating those 600,000 Americans when we could be putting billions into bettering the United States and putting money into, putting revenues into the economy? So all that has to be done now is for Congress to just change this legislation, and it's kind of up to us to elect the people that are going to make change. So thank you all for listening today, and that's it. Make sure you just get a little more circular, just to make sure it's all good. Okay, cool, show yourself again. Okay, show me again to make sure that my cards are still the same. Okay, good. Thank you.